Okay, we're going to talk about something that is very much connected to Central America, with America. And a couple of years ago, I was privileged to go to Colonial Williamsburg, and as I was walking around Colonial Williamsburg, I visited the Ivy League college William and Mary, a very prestigious school. And as I was walking around, I came up on this building, and there was this statue. And as I looked at the statue, it said President James Monroe. He attended William and Mary. So I thought, wow, I'm outside, I'm a teacher, I'm at a college, here's President Monroe in front of this building. So I thought, hey, I'll go in and teach a class so I can tell everybody that I have taught at a prestigious Ivy League school. A lecture on the Monroe Doctrine. Yes, since this is you might say, what's doctrine mean? Well, in this case, what says the Monroe Doctrine, it's like a policy. It's a government action. So when I went into the classroom, here I am, and I started to give my lecture, nobody showed, and waited an hour, and nobody showed. I waited 5 hours, and nobody showed, and here was the classroom that you could see. They weren't able to attend my lecture of the Monroe Doctrine. And so, let's take a look at this first one right now. I'd like for you, on number 1, what are some things that you see? And on these, I want you to kind of look for symbols. For example, here we see a man, that's Uncle Sam, and he is pointing to the ground, and it's like an electrical, it looks like an electrical fence, and it says, what does it say at the bottom? Yes, the Monroe Doctrine. Then he's pointing to this line, and he's looking at somebody, and we see these two individuals. Do you know where they're from? Well, that is representative of Germany and England. So we can kind of say Europe. And Uncle Sam, that is America, is telling So America is telling Europe something like, don't cross this line. It's the Monroe Doctrine, the Monroe Policy. Number 2, okay, this one, we see a picture of a man holding a rifle and a gun, and a sign says no trespassing, and then there's a bunch of other people on land, and there's a body of water separating them. But I will tell you, at the very bottom, you might not be able to read it, but it says, keep off. The Monroe Doctrine must be respected. So, if you take a look, you see that these men have the names of the countries on them. And once again, who's this guy with the gun? So what do you think the message here is? Number 2, tell me what you see. All right? And remember, it says the Monroe Doctrine must be respected. So take a look and see what's in this sign, what it says. Next, let's take a look at this one. Number 3. At the very bottom of this, it says the following. Let it be written so it can be heard. Let it be written so it can be heard. So we see these guys. Who are they representing? You should be able to get this. We see these guys, and they're looking over, and now it's not an electrical wire, but what do we see over here? Explain what you see and what is written on these images over here. So what do you think it's being talked about? Okay? Number 4. Here we see this guy, and he's putting up a sign. And it says, positively no hunting. Okay? And I will tell you real quick, in case you can't see, in the little paint bucket here, it says, Restatement of Monroe Doctrine. And this particular drawing was probably painted or drawn. I don't know exactly when. I don't see if there was a date. I'm predicting somewhere in the 1940s, maybe the late 1930s, but 1940s. And so we see two individuals, well, three individuals, but you might recognize two of them, okay? And then at the very bottom, you see these ducks, and you see, what is that saying? So notice it says, "No hunting" by President James Monroe, okay? And Monroe had been dead a long time before this was painted. This is the fifth one, number 5. So let's take a look at this one, and we see here, what is going on here? What do you see? Now, I will tell you real quick, the man in the boat, that is the President of the United States at the time. That is Teddy Roosevelt, okay? So here at the end of the gun, it says Monroe Doctrine. So number 5, tell me kind of what you see. What do you think the message is about this? And again, ladies and gentlemen, don't worry if you think you might get something wrong. I just want you to try to look at this and try to analyze it, okay? Number 6, we have a barnyard image. And we see here in the middle, we see a large rooster, okay? And it says, well, and that's representative of who? Think about it. Then over here, it has an image on the farm. It says the European coop, the chicken coop. But notice what it says on this coop. Monroe Doctrine, okay? So, what do you think this message is? Think about it. I would like for you to jot down the 4 things about the Monroe Doctrine. Number 1, the Monroe Doctrine was the following. Okay? This was basically written to the nations of Europe. Number 1, if you, that is the Europe, if you're thinking about starting colonies in the Western Hemisphere, forget about it, as they say. So, Europe, stay out of the Western Hemisphere. Don't come over here. Okay? Number 2, it stated that the United States would not interfere in the business of Europe. Basically, you stay away, we won't bother you. Number 3, if Europe, you already have colonies over here, if you've got them over here, fine, we're not going to interfere. But basically, new involvement over in this part of the world, we're not going to stand for it. We're not going to allow it. So, that was the Monroe Doctrine. So let's now take a look at some examples how we have used the Monroe Doctrine in recent years as a reason, a justification for the things that we did as a nation. So let's take a look at some of these here a little bit later.